Hello, listeners and viewers. Welcome to the Leadership Advancement Mentorship Podcast, the podcast for emerging leaders that showcase the development process of great leaders and also how mentorship has really shaped on their life to make them to be effective as a leader. Today is the part 2 of the power of passion with Miss Thalita Boikhutso. And if you remember last week, we started by just looking at the power of passion with her. And we're glad to have her again for this part 2. I mean, a lot of people have been asking me that they can wait for this. Even the first one and all that. We bringing it back to you. So this is the part 2, and we're glad that you listened to part 1 last week. Now, for the benefit of people that are yet to watch the part 1, let me introduce Miss Thalita to you again, and just for you to really understand this unique personality. Miss Thalita is the co-founder and the managing director of Alona Advisory Services in South Africa, as well as an independent non-executive director of various companies. She has over 20 years advisory services experience with a specific focus on financial services, mining, FMCG, oil and gas, and public sector, as well as 15 years of board experience. She has chaired and served on various board subcommittees, including HR and remuneration, nomination, social and ethics, and strategy and technical. But the uniqueness apart from all these things that I just read is, and what all those ones are great. But what stood out to me about Miss Thalita is something that happened in the book "Put Your Dream to Test" by my mentor, Dr. John Maxwell. And John Maxwell shared on page 73 and 74 how Miss Thalita, Boikhutso, and through the power of passion, overcame adversity as a company's group chief executive, responsible for putting the event together that hosted Dr. John Maxwell way back in July 2007. To speak for Maxima Global Consulting in Johannesburg, South Africa. In that book, Mr. Thalita went on to describe the many obstacles she had to overcome to hold the conference, such as not winning over a business partner until she pledged to reimburse the company out of her own pocket for any losses. When she failed to enlist other corporate sponsors, she didn't give up. Her passion carried her through and won our team. So I had the pleasure of doing the first part of the podcast with her. But this second part, I've already told her, I said, what we want is to really showcase the process of our dream. And this is really what happened, and in the power of passion. Dr. John Maxwell defined passion as an enthusiasm that not only gives you energy and focus, in the present, but also gives you power to keep moving towards the future. It gives you fuel to pursue your dream, and he was paraphrasing Will Hobbs in that book, Put Your Dream to Test. It said, Will Hobbs says, passion makes possible waking up in the morning, wherever you are, however old or young, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you are good at, something that is bigger than you are, and you can hardly wait to get at it done today. And Dr. John Maxwell identified 3 significant things for us about passion. And the first one he said is passion pulls us up, enabling us to overcome adversity. And this is where he shared Ms. Thalita Boikhutso's story. And we'll be focusing on how you can use your passion to overcome the adversity. Then the second thing he shared about passion is passion pushes us out, giving us initiative. The third thing he shared about passion is passion positions us well, giving us the great odds for success. Then in this place too, he talked about the passion question. the passion question is, does your dream compel you to follow it? Does your dream compel you to follow it? A lot of people have the dream, like I said, you are either living your dream, Living, or living your dream, Leaving. People who achieve their dream answer yes to the passion question. They feel compelled to follow their dream. Now, Dr. Maxwell did something unique. He talked about the passion meter, the passion scale, and on the grade of scale 1 to 10, it says scale 10 is, number 10 is, my passion is so hot that it sets other people on fire. Scale grade 9, I cannot imagine my life without my dream. Number 8, I willingly sacrifice other important things for it. 7, I'm fired up by it and often preoccupied with it. And 6, I enjoy it as one of many interests. 5, I can take it or leave it. 4, I prefer to think about it. 3, I go out of my way to avoid it. 2, I've put it on my list of my least favorite things. And 1, I would rather have a root canal without anesthesia. You see, that talks about the passion level. Can you imagine? I mean, so, and one thing he mentioned is this. He said, if your passion is not 8, 9, or 10, you need to find another dream. You need to find another dream. So your dream requires passion. It is the fuel. You say if your passion level is an 8, 9, or 10, you are in good shape. But what if not? That doesn't mean you are doomed. It just means you have the wrong dream. So without wasting time, I will just, I want to introduce Miss Thalita. There's no point asking her to introduce herself again. We want to go straight. Miss Thalita, one thing you said about this when Dr. Joe Maxwell asked you a question, Dr. Joe Maxwell said he asked you to explain, to tell her about, this, you were talking about how the process of him coming, and you said you made a decision in 2006 that each year you want to have one big thing that will grow not only you but many other people in your country. Wow, what a daring, bold step by an iron lady. And you said your definition of that thing big for you is you believe what is impossible, something high risk. And your own big thing is bringing Dr. John Maxwell to South Africa. And after the event, you said, this is a dream come true for you. So this is big. So the question is, how did you came up with that dream? How did this idea came up? Why Dr. John Maxwell? Why not any local speaker around? Why did you have to? This is this is the first time and you thinking big. Why did you decide to go for a big shack like Dr. John Maxwell?
Thanks, Michael. Thank you for having me on your podcast once again. I'm fully honored. So I've always gone big, Michael. I've always set really high goals for myself, high targets for myself. But if I had to look at specifically, to answer your question, why not a local speaker? Because we have quite highly successful authors in our country. I would consider experts, in their own right on leadership, right? I have been a follower of Dr. Maxwell's work for many years. And one of the books that I first laid my hands on many years ago was The Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And I found it very useful and helpful as a leader. And one of the key messages I have enjoyed from Dr. Maxwell's work is around how one as a leader, you need to always be cognizant of the fact that you need to move along with your people. emphasizing the importance of humility, emphasizing the importance of influence. He says leadership is about influence, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have people following you, people buying into your vision, you're leading yourself, you're not leading anyone. But this dream, if I was to think back, my journey of bringing Dr. Maxwell to South Africa, for me, was a story of a village girl who pursued her dreams with vigor and passion. As a young village girl, I am growing up in a small community. I never imagined that I would someday, become a leader. Because my childhood was filled with simplicity. It was filled with daily routines of rural life. And however, as I got older and I began to venture outside of the village, I realized that there was something outside of the world that I knew, and I wanted that. And I wanted something better for myself, right? And at that time, really the goal, the vision was to pull myself and my family out of poverty. And why am I sharing the story? And I like to share this story a lot when I speak to young girls and boys. When we talk about life skills, we talk about leadership, we talk about self-leadership specifically, navigating this world that we live in of social media and all the things that they get exposed to. And that is a lot of what we become in adulthood tends to be learned here. And some of the principles that we apply as adults, we bring from our upbringing, right? Our upbringing. So the importance of sharing this really is that the principles that are applied in my journey to bringing Dr. Maxwell to South Africa were no different from principles that I've had to adopt throughout my life. And don't get me wrong, I've learned, through interaction with people, life experiences, and I've refined some of these over the years. But these principles, they really premised on 4 things that I believe if you are wanting to make your dreams a reality.
So you said 4 things to make your dreams a reality?
4 things that if you want to make your dreams a reality, you need to consider.
So what are the 4 things here?
So the first one is passion, and that's what you're wanting us to really, focus on today.
Yes.
Because I always tell people, Michael, you have got to love what you do. That's very important. Because it is that passion that will carry you when the going gets tough, And Dr. Maxwell, you've already touched on that earlier. He speaks a lot about that. The second one is valiance, right? Fear of failure is the number 1 killer of great ideas and dreams. I always ask myself, what's the worst that can happen if I asked or if I tried this? And this very principle was very important in the Dr. John Maxwell scenario, in that when I made a decision that I wanted to bring him to South Africa, all I knew of Dr. Maxwell were the books that I'd read and his website. I didn't know anyone within his organization. I spent weeks and weeks of self-doubt. Should I call? Shouldn't I call? And one afternoon, I picked up that telephone in my office, the handset, and I dialed Atlanta. And someone picked up, and I introduced myself. I told them what I had wanted to do, and they said, we're going to get someone to call you. They come in a bit later. Called the next day, I left my number, called the next day, and I spoke to his assistant, who then asked me to put it down in writing.
Okay. Okay, do you mean the executive assistant edges?
Yes, I think at the time it was David Hoyt. I
Okay.
remember at the time it was David Hoyt.
Okay.
I think David managed his global travel schedule.
Okay.
So that time, so the time was just perfect, you know. And the reason I'm saying I'm emphasizing the fact that sometimes we have to overcome our fear of failure, right? Be able to move one step closer to reaching that success. Because had I not done that, had I perhaps even called later on in the year, I probably wouldn't have had that event, because it turned out the time was perfect, because Dr. Maxwell was going to be traveling to the East and then to London. And David said, what you're going to do to minimize your costs, right? I mean, given the exchange rate, dollar rand exchange rate, because when he told me the rate, I wanted to faint. I just said, please give me a discount. Yeah, so he then said, look, he's going to be in London. So what we're going to do, we're going to try and slot you in. So after London, he'll come to you, then he'll come back to the US. And that's what happened.
Wow.
My events manager said, no. Mind you, I'm the managing director, the CEO of the business. I have a dream I want to fulfill. A goal I want to reach, right? But you have an events person who runs this stuff, you know. They know what works, what doesn't work. So Nadia at the time says to me, no, it's winter. We can't do it in winter. We have to look at maybe next year, because people don't attend events in winter. They don't want to be cold. And I said, Nadia, we are going to go ahead with it. If this never works in winter, it's going to work for us, because we're going to make it work, right? So we went ahead and decided, you know what, we're going to do this. But there were quite a number of stumbling blocks along the way, right? To host an event of that magnitude, you want partners, and you want them for two reasons. Yes, you want to try and spread the risk, right? Because I had already been told winter is a no-no. But number two, when you partner with others, you have better reach, right? And it was important who we partnered with. For example, the decision to have an academic partner, a university, was a well-thought strategy, right? Because it is our learning institutions, right, that provide the theoretical exposure or knowledge.
Yeah.
So it made sense for us to do that. So we partnered with, at the time, the University of Johannesburg. The only thing was, none of our partners were prepared to part with money at that stage. And we had to think out of the box, Michael. And I remember I was told, unless you secure this is not doable, right? Unless you bring that in, this is not doable. What's really critical, and this one talks to perseverance and resilience.
Is that part of the 14s? Because you mentioned 14s. You talk about passion, you talk about values.
Valiance, as you gotta be valiant. You gotta have courage, you know,
Is it number 2? Was it value or what? I want to be sure.
So number 1 is passion.
Yeah.
The second one is valiance, as in being valiant.
Being a person of valor.
Yeah. So just have the courage to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's just call it courage. Courage.
Fearless. Yeah. Be fearless. Right.
Okay. You said fearless. Okay.
You can say fearless. Right. The third one is consistency.
Okay.
Consistency. So you have got to stick to the flight plan, right? Regardless of what happens, right? And this requires a lot of discipline. It requires accountability, right? And I always say, if you struggle, especially with accountability, get yourself an accountability partner. And one of the things that I've done very well over the years. When I found myself having some little bit of doubt on what I can and cannot do, and I feel I'm not convinced that I can do it, and I feel I need a bit of a nudge from a third party. There are people I'll talk to strategically, not just anybody. Someone who I know will support my dream, will support my vision, but they also hold me accountable, right? But also when we do that, we must just always make sure that we don't choose people that will not push us, because sometimes we need a bit of a nudge, right? The fourth one I wanted to touch on is perseverance.
Perseverance, okay.
And that is sticking to your goals, regardless of the obstacles, right? That may come your way. And this involves having a clear vision of what you want to achieve and being determined to make it happen, right? And one-on-one is resilience, being able to bounce back from your setbacks, right? And failures, and also involves learning from your mistakes and using them opportunities for growth. Now, going back to the passion and also my journey in bringing Dr. Maxwell to South Africa. Michael, I'm very passionate about leadership. And most importantly, leadership development, right? In our podcast last week, I think I did mention that I've now reached a stage where I'm focusing more on your younger generations, building leaders. And it is that passion that carried me through the process, right? And part of what I had to do was to think out of the box, right? Thinking out of the box, finding solutions in problems. Finding solutions in problems. Okay. People who have challenges, and for them, that's the end of the road. However, if you can think beyond your challenge, beyond your problem, you'd be surprised at what solutions are out there, to help you to get. So you have to think beyond that. You have to think beyond that. And, often that requires a bit of improvisation. For example, when our sponsor said, we don't have money right now, so we cannot contribute towards that, the venue can't contribute towards that. And then I looked at our costs, for example, our media campaign, marketing campaign, etc. And I then went back to our sponsors and I asked, for example, the university. I've heard often in the morning, stuck in traffic, that specific station would be running adverts promoting your university. Can you give us 3 or 4 of your slots? So it's a contribution of, funding in kind. And that's not something that at that stage, I suppose a lot of us would have considered, someone who has said, you know what, I couldn't source funding, I'll try again. And I said, let's find a way around it. Maybe you don't need to give me money. Maybe you can do what you have already. Give me 4 of your slots. Let me use your slots for a media campaign. Before I knew it, we're in the studio recording Dr. Maxwell coming to South Africa in July, blah, blah, blah. And we're on the major national radio stations. And that's created awareness, right? Yeah. The other thing that we did, we engaged with companies and our clients and leaders, just to create interest and build awareness. And I was told, Michael, that given the season, the best that we could do in sales, ticket sales, because we also went for a bigger venue, was 70%. And that became our target because I was told that's a target. I told my events manager that I wasn't going to settle for that. We were going to. And
so you are talking about 100% ticket sales.
We got 95%.
Wow.
95%.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think this story specifically, I hope will.
So like you have like how many people came to the event? You know? How big is the space? How many people did it take?
It was 1,000 seater, 1,000. And we got 95% of that.
Wow. That's almost 950.
Yep.
I know at that time, technology, this talk about 2007, was there televised? Yeah. It was just.
No, it wasn't televised, because of kind of contractual limitations. You'd understand Dr. Maxwell will have to also protect
his content.
His content, his brand. So we just recorded it for our own internal use, but nothing outside of that. And I remember at the end of the conference, we had quite a number of people who were asking, when is the next one? When is the next one?
Wow.
We'd love to see him again. And the conference was actually the theme was the 360-degree lead. I think that's when he had just released that book at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So what was the greatest obstacle that you overcame? What was the greatest obstacle that you overcame in hosting that event?
The greatest obstacle was being able to win over my partners, and I'm talking business partners, not partners to the conference itself. I'm talking my fellow directors who felt the risk exposure was too high. And unless we got a sponsor to share the risk, the business was not prepared to go ahead with it. And that's when I said to my partners, should this fail, I'm happy to reimburse the business for whatever the losses that would have incurred.
Wow, that was ownership. You know what?
To sign my life away. I say, I'll have my house as a collateral if I have to.
Wow.
Doing this.
Wow, that was heavy because Dr. Maxwell highlighted 17th question in Put Your Dream to Taste. He talked about the ownership question. That's the first one. He said, is your dream really your dream? And then number 2, he said the clarity question, do I clearly see my dream? Number 3, the reality question, am I depending on other factors within my control to achieve my dream? 4, the passion question, does my dream compels me to follow it? Number 5, the pathway question, do I have a strategy to reach my dream? Then the people question, have I included the people I need to realize my dream? But this is where I'm actually coming. The cost question, am I willing to pay the price for my dream? And you are really willing, even to put your house on the line. I mean, who does that? Except someone that is really passionate. Wow. So what is the greatest lesson that you learned hosting that event?
That with perseverance, anything is possible. Anything is possible. And you're able to see beyond your challenges. They say, when one door closes, the window. So if you're able to see beyond your challenges, you'll be surprised what solutions, opportunities lie on the other side of that. And that's what I had to overcome. So we have to be solution driven as opposed to focus on the problem itself. There's a problem, there's a challenge. You always have to constantly ask yourself, is there a way around it? What can I do differently? Is there something I have not considered that could perhaps possibly be my way around this particular challenge? And that's a thought process we have to engage in continuously. Because if we don't do that, we risk not realizing our dreams because we just went through a bit of a hump and we felt, you know what?
That's awesome. Wow, that's awesome. So what will be your advice for people that have a dream and that they are considering the adversity, the obstacle, how about this? And, because those 4 things you mentioned, you talk about the 4 things to fulfill your dream. You talk about passion. You have to love what you do. You talk about fearless. And you mentioned that fear of failure is the number 1 killer of visions and dreams. Number 3, you talk about consistency. That means sticking to the plan. Number 4, you mentioned perseverance, which you define as sticking to your goals regardless of your obstacles. So what would be your best advice for people that have a dream that they are looking at the obstacles, looking at the contrary? What would be your best advice for them? How can you encourage them that the impossible is possible?
So first, you have to believe in yourself and your vision, right? You believe if you are sold on your vision, you are sold on your dream, right? Whatever obstacles you have, trust me, they can be overcome. You can overcome those. If you find that you cannot see beyond those challenges, I would encourage you to engage with a trusted either partner or trusted associate or a friend, because sometimes getting a different sort of eyes look at your challenge may produce a different outcome. Do not give up. Do not give up. It is doable.
Wow, that means talk about perspective. They will give you that perspective. And you're right, Dr. John Maxwell said we all have 3 different gaps: the knowledge gap, the experience gap, and the perspective gap. And this perspective is very, very important. Ability to see from a different view. Another question I want to ask you before our time is over is Dr. John Maxwell talk about passion pull us up, enabling us to overcome adversity. And how have you been able to use the lesson that you learned from this event to overcome adversity after the event?
I have applied, and I'd be lying to you, Michael, if I said it's always perfect, right? I think as leaders, the journey of development and growth is continuous, right?
Yes, yeah.
And there are times when you feel completely swallowed, and you feel maybe in this particular instance I should perhaps, right? But I can tell you this: every single time when I have a teeny bit of self-doubt, when I'm going through a steep learning curve and I'm thinking, maybe this is a bit above me, right? I have Dr. Maxwell's recording. Often what I do, I play it, and when I do the intro and I remind myself, this is who you are. Remember who you are. So my answer to your question, I have always tried to the best of my ability to apply what I learned out of that experience, overcoming, challenges that I've gone through in my life, right?
Wow.
Because that for me is a reminder that can do it. You did it before. You can do it.
Yeah, that's can-do spirit. Wow. You know what? We just have to wrap up. We can get another few notes. Something is coming to my mind, and I want to say this live. I didn't discuss this with Mrs. Thalita before. That please, can I request that we can have a special live session? I know this is pre-recorded. That we can have a special Q&A. I know people will have a lot of questions, so that maybe later on you can give us a date where we can have a special Q&A session on event planning and event execution, and where people can ask, because I believe I have a lot of people around the world, especially in the Maxwell leadership, that they want to do an event. They have all this fear of failure, this issue, and all that. So I want to request if you can make a commitment. I mean, I'm setting you up now. Commitment. And
I would consider myself an events planner. That's why I had an events manager.
Oh, okay, well. But what I'm saying is that you might not be an event planner, but for you to pull this up, that was huge. And I believe there's a lot of things people can learn, and people will want to ask you many questions live. So I'm proposing a live event where we can have interaction with people, maybe like 90 minutes. We're going to go live, Facebook Live, so people can connect, ask questions from you. I mean, I just got that vision. I just got that dream. Like you got a dream to bring Dr. John Maxwell. I mean, I just got that dream. Now, with that dream, now I have this passion. I'm fearless to ask. Then I'm putting up my consistency and perseverance to give back to the dream. So please, will you be able to do that for us, Ms. Thalita? I know you're busy, but we can still work with your schedule.
I'd be more than happy to, Michael.
Okay. That's something I like about you. So we want to say thank you for your time today. Like I said, she just gave a commitment. We're going to have a special Q&A session. I'm going to follow up with her to get a date, and this date will be announced. Just keep watching this podcast. Subscribe so that you can have an alert. I'm going to announce it live, and you're going to know when Ms. Thalita is going to come. She's going to have a special live session where you can ask questions, and about how to really have a great event, the process of overcoming obstacles. We all need that. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Thalita. It's been a great time. And viewers and listeners, I believe you got a lot from this podcast. This is what it's all about. Don't forget, application is the key to transformation. Don't just listen. Don't just watch. Make sure you apply and experience transformation. Thank you. See ya next time. Yeah.